Konnichiwa and welcome to episode 16 of the Leadership Japan podcast, and I am your host in Tokyo, Dr. Greg Story, president of Dale Carnegie Training Japan, and much more importantly, you are a student of leadership, highly motivated to be the best in your business field. And today we will have another interview with Business in Japan Television on the very important subject of Dale Carnegie Training.
Dale Carnegie Training is now into its second century as the world's leading training company. Founded more than 100 years ago on Dale Carnegie's simple yet effective personal development skills, the company now offers programs in 35 languages in 88 countries. Dr. Greg Story is president of Dale Carnegie Training Japan, and he joins us to talk about his organization. Dr. Story, thanks again for coming in.
My pleasure, Mike.
Now, as somebody who's been through one of your training courses, I understand the value of the programs that you offer. But for those not familiar, can you give us an idea of what you do?
Yeah, Mike, we focus on 6 key areas. We try and pick areas where we have a differentiable advantage through our 100 plus years of best practice experience. And those areas are team member engagement, which usually involves where there's been a merger or an acquisition, trying to get the teams behind a new direction, or headquarters has come up with a new policy or want a new culture or a new direction, and to get people aligned behind that. The second area is leadership. Now, this could be leadership at all levels. It could be from someone very junior who doesn't have sort of leader written on their coat necessarily, but they step up and take accountability, responsibility, have suggestions, put ideas on the table, ask questions, proactive involvement with the operation, to people who are stepping up into leadership roles, or even very senior people who need to be challenged about their thinking about leadership and take them to the next high level. The next area we deal with is persuasion power, and we do that through our presentation training. And this can involve one-on-one like this. It could be a vast audience. It could be anything in between that. Another area we work on is process improvement, which is really around 2 areas. How do I become more efficient, but also how do I become more effective? Because efficiency doesn't always equal effectiveness. So we're looking for both effectiveness and efficiency. Then we have our sales area where we have B2B, which is selling to corporations, classic sales training. We look, though, at taking the sales process and we include the Dale Carnegie human relations principles with that. Then we have, which is more of a retail area, customer service, B2C, where we're teaching about how to create that first impression, how to build not a transactional relationship with customers, but a loyal, long-term relationship.
Greg, what are the key outcomes you hope your clients will get out of your training programs?
Well, we really aim for behaviour change and permanent learning. When I talk about behaviour change, the vast majority of training is information transfer. So we have a piece of knowledge and we give it to you, the participant, which is fine up to a point that unless we actually do something with it and incorporate what we've learned into our daily routine, into our job, and there's no behaviour change there, then the training doesn't have any residual lasting value. So what we're looking for is get behaviour change in people so that the minute you finish our training, you've now changed your behaviour, you're operating in an improved manner, and the outcome is immediate. That's very, very key. The other thing is permanent learning. Very sadly, if you ask people, a month later after most training, what do you remember? They don't remember much. It's because it's sort of gone in one ear and out the other. What we look for here is permanent learning. We do that through particularly using self-discovery. And adult learning, just giving people information takes you to a certain level. If we can get you to discover that information for yourself, then we get permanent learning. It's a bit like the instructor giving you a fish every day at training, as opposed to teaching you how to catch fish on your own. That's where we're going with our training, trying to have self-discovery processes built into the training curriculum so that you own the information you've found. And we know things that are practical, and our training is all highly practical, leads to permanent learning. Things that are self-discovered lead to permanent learning. So they're the 2 things, behaviour change and permanent learning that we go for.
So how do you accomplish that?
Well, this is where we need to work on people's comfort zone expansion. One of the problems is that we are hesitant to change. We do the same things in the same way, we get the same result. But very few companies are satisfied with that. They're looking for better. If you think about what's better, how do you get better? It's a change in something new you're introducing that wasn't there before, or something you've been doing before, but now you're tweaking it, you're changing it slightly to get a different result. So to get better is a change, which for most people is scary. They're hesitant to step out of their comfort zone and embrace a change. Well, you cannot get higher performance unless you're prepared to step out of that comfort zone. So in our training structure, and the thing that amazes me is, I don't know how Dale Carnegie worked this out 100 years ago, but he worked it out that unless you get that comfort zone expansion, you do not get the behaviour change that you need to have the permanent learning. So we are, in the course of the training, it's very subtle, but we're expanding people's comfort zone on the way through, so that by the end of the training, they feel more capable of stepping up, volunteering for things, taking responsibility for projects, suggesting ideas, bringing innovation, all of those things that all companies want, and more comfortable with change. So we find that is a very, very critical point.
So Dale Carnegie Training has been in business now more than a century, more than 100 years, obviously, as you mentioned. What have you guys learned over that time period?
Yeah, we've come up with a cycle of performance improvement that we found works all around the world. Everyone wants a skill improvement, but before you can get to that, there are other things that need to come into play. One of them is get the attitude right. Now, we work a lot on opening up people's minds to have a desire to improve. Not everybody who's sent to training is happy to be there, particularly in this country, in Japan. So we have to work a lot on the attitude and give people a structure. They can say, yes, I see that I'm good in these areas, but actually I need to be stronger in these areas, to have that idea of that openness to absorb the learning. Then, of course, we bring knowledge. But as I said before, it's not bringing you a fish every day type of knowledge. It's teaching you how to catch fish. So the self-discovery process in the transfer of knowledge is very, very critical for that permanent learning and immediate application I talked about before. One of the problems, though, with the training is you read the book, you see the video, you hear the lecture. Intellectually, I get it. Yeah, I know. I've got it. That's great. Trouble is, it doesn't become I do it. It gets stuck in your mind, in your head, and doesn't get into your body to become your habit. And so we call this the knowledge trap. Yes, I know what I should do, but I don't do it. There's no application. So we work a really strong amount of the time on going from that knowledge into application through practice. We have special adult learning techniques for that. Once we get that practice going, and it's very experiential, our training, very interactive, our training, then it becomes your new default skill. And then you go on the cycle again to the next level.
Now, with the presence in so many countries, 88 countries, as we mentioned before, can you tell us, are you able to call upon a global network to help your clients here in Japan?
Yeah, actually, 88 countries is a big network. We're usually in more countries than our clients. There's very few clients who are more widely located than we are. But it gives us a potential. For example, we have colleagues who are working for big corporates overseas, but they need the training delivered in Japan. They want it in Japanese. And they can customize it, and then we can bring it here for local delivery. For example, last year, very large German manufacturer, Walter Tools, 31-country project. We delivered the Japan component. There were 3 big sections to it. So that works very well. This year we're doing for a big Danish company, Coloplast, it's 34 countries, and we're doing the Japan component. It also works the other way. For companies here, Japanese multinationals, and there are increasingly more of those, we can design here in Japan, custom make the training for them, and then our colleagues in our network around the world will deliver that particular program for that client. One of the great things about what we can do is we have that great consistency of we take the intellectual property, break it down, and then repackage it as a custom product. But our colleagues can recognize that customization very easily and then know how to deliver that product.
Greg, your trainers must be experienced to do what they do. Can you give us a bit of the background and what it takes to become a Dale Carnegie trainer?
Mike, I'll start by telling you who we don't take. You know, your classic graduate from university, go into the company, go into the training department, spend, 8 years doing training and then want to become a Dale Carnegie trainer. No. Our trainers are mainly Japanese, obviously. They're coming out of company backgrounds where they've been at least a manager. They've had line experience. They're business people. So they not only teach our programs in the classroom with our content, they can add their real-world experience to the participants in the classroom, give that insight. The other thing is, it takes 250 hours of training to become a certified Dale Carnegie trainer. We're ISO 9001 certified. We're the only global training company that's ISO certified. It's a very rigorous process. We have master trainers come in, mainly from America, and put everyone through their paces. And you have to recertify every year. We see the training delivery as a critical part of our value that we bring to clients. So we have to keep that very high level. And these trainers in the Dale Carnegie group are the elite trainers in the world. This is very hard to become a Dale Carnegie trainer, very hard to stay a Dale Carnegie trainer, but the outcome is very high performance.
Do you deliver the same type of training programs here in Japan that you do in the West for Japanese students who might be unfamiliar with Western learning methods?
I think the biggest surprise for Japanese participants is it's so much fun, because the Japanese methodology for training is lecture. It's boring. It's senseis bleating on for hours. And when Japanese get told they're going to training, inwardly they just groan because they know this is going to be dull, it's going to be painful. That's what I said before about we need to work a lot on attitude. So when they turn up to our training, we're able to show them, you have got strengths, you've got areas you can work on, we can help you. And once they get into the training, they realize, wow, this is very interactive. I've never had that type of training before. Oh, I'm learning things myself. I'm finding things I didn't know. I'm getting insight. I'm learning from others in the classroom. So they find it a lot of fun. And the time goes very quickly, because normally they think, oh my God, a whole day, time's going to drag on, the afternoon's going to kill me. We don't have that problem. So we find, from the Japanese point of view, this sort of training is probably a blessed relief for a lot of Japanese.
Greg, thanks for coming in again.
Great pleasure, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Leadership Japan podcast. If you'd like to access more great insights and information, then go to japan.dalecarnegie.com.